It was supposed to be one of the happiest weeks of our lives. My wife and I had just brought our newborn daughter home, tiny, peaceful, and healthy. After months of anticipation, sleepless nights, and prepping every inch of the nursery, we were finally settling into the beautiful chaos of new parenthood. But all that peace was shattered less than 48 hours later by a knock at the door. And standing there, the president of our neighborhood, HOA, the woman everyone calls Karen, behind her back with a clipboard in one hand and an attitude big enough to fill the whole street. At first, I thought it was just another harmless HOA notice, maybe a landscaping complaint or a trash bin rule we'd overlooked in all the excitement. But no, she wasn't there about hedges or recycling bins. She was there demanding to speak to my wife. And when my wife appeared, cradling our sleeping newborn, that's when things took a turn I'll never forget. Karen took one look at the baby and, with this strange and titled tone, told my wife she needed to hand the child over, that there had been a misunderstanding, and the HOA had protocols about newborns in the neighborhood. I wish I were making that up. My wife froze. I stepped in. But Karen wasn't backing down. She claimed there were unspoken rules about who could have children in our part of the community, and that someone like us had to be approved. That's when I realized this was more than just a power-tripping HOA president. This was someone who thought she had authority over our family. What she didn't know: I'm a Navy SEAL, and I don't back down when someone threatens my family, especially not some clipboard-wielding suburban tyrant. I tried to stay calm, but as she kept pushing, my training kicked in. What happened next? Let's just say, Karen found out the hard way that some lines you don't cross, especially with a seed on the other side. Now, before I get into what really went down, let me give you a little background, because this didn't just come out of nowhere. Karen, the HOA president, has always had a reputation in the neighborhood. She's the type who measures your grass with a ruler, sends passive-aggressive emails about Christmas lights being too bright, and acts like she personally designed the HOA handbook. But up until now, she'd mostly kept her drama to garden. Gnomes and mailbox paint colors. Weeds stayed off her radar. Or so we thought. We moved into the neighborhood about 7 months ago. Quiet cul-de-sac, safe streets, decent schools. It seemed like the perfect place to raise a family, especially with our daughter on the way. My wife loved the house from the moment she saw it, and honestly, after spending years away on deployments, I just wanted her to feel safe and settled. We kept to ourselves, waved at neighbors, followed all the HOA rules, even the weird ones. But from day one, Karen gave us that look. You know the one? Like we didn't quite belong. There were little things at first. Notes left on our door about unsanctioned window coverings, or how our mailbox wasn't HOA compliant. Once, she even called about our driveway lights being too modern looking. We laughed it off. I mean, compared to the stuff I've dealt with overseas, some suburban complaints weren't going to rattle me. But this, demanding our newborn baby, that was something else entirely. And here's the thing, she kept hinting at concerns from the board. But when I asked which board members had complained, she dodged the question. It was like she was making it all up as she went. The weirdest part? She kept glancing at our baby like she expected something. Like she knew something we didn't. My instincts were screaming that this wasn't about HOA rules at all. I didn't want to escalate things. But I also wasn't about to hand over my child to a stranger, HOA title or not. So I started asking questions. And the deeper I looked, the stranger this whole thing got. As the days passed, things started to feel off. Karen didn't just disappear after that bizarre confrontation. In fact, it was almost like she doubled down. The next morning, we found a printed violation notice on our doorstep. No envelope, no explanation, just a list of bogus complaints, unapproved modifications to exterior lighting, noise disturbance, and get this, Unauthorized infant occupancy. I had to read that last one 3 times just to believe it. What does that even mean? Since when? Does an HOA get to decide who can bring a baby home? My wife was rattled. She barely slept. Every time she rocked our daughter by the window, she kept checking the street, convinced someone was watching the house. And honestly, she wasn't wrong. I caught Karen walking by several times a day, always pausing near our mailbox, pretending to be on her phone. One evening, I stepped outside just to take out the trash, and she froze like she'd been caught snooping. Said she was monitoring community safety. Right? The more I thought about it, the more this felt personal. Not HOA business, but something else. I started asking around. Quiet conversations with a few of the neighbors, folks who'd lived here longer. Most were nervous to talk. A few just shrugged and said, "That's Karen for you." But one older couple finally opened up. They said Karen had a pattern. Every time a new family moved in, especially younger couples, especially people who didn't look or act like her, she'd find a way to make them feel unwelcome. Some moved out. Some just gave in and kept their heads down. But there was more. They mentioned something that chilled me. A young family that moved in 2 years ago had a baby. Left without a word less than 6 weeks later. House sold fast. No for sale sign, no goodbye. And Karen. She suddenly had a new car and a gate installed around her backyard. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about power trips or HOA rules. This was something darker. Something calculated. I didn't know exactly what Karen was hiding, but I knew I was getting close. Too close. I knew I had to get ahead of whatever this was before it escalated even more. So I started documenting everything. Every strange note. Every time Karen walked by the house staring just a little too long. Every complaint she dropped off. I even installed a discreet security camera near our front door, just in case. And it didn't take long before the footage gave me something. Around 2:13 a.m. one night, I caught her standing in our yard, right by the window of the nursery, just staring. She didn't knock, didn't leave a note. She just stood there for a full 5 minutes before walking off like nothing happened. The next day, I went straight to the HOA office, only to find out that Karen had been acting solo. No board vote, no official documentation. No one else on the HOA had even heard of our so-called violations. One board member, a guy named Matt, pulled me aside and whispered, "We've been trying to get her removed for over a year, but she's got some kind of hold over the management company. No one's been able to touch her." So now, this wasn't just about my family. It was about uncovering something much bigger. My gut told me Karen wasn't working alone. And that mystery family who vanished 2 years ago. I tracked down a name through property records and made some calls. When I finally got a hold of them, the father was hesitant to talk, but once I told him what was happening to us, he broke. He said Karen had threatened legal action, claimed they'd violated neighborhood ordinances, even made strange suggestions that Child Protective Services might get involved if they didn't comply. The pressure became too much. They packed up and left in the middle of the night. That was the final push. I wasn't going to wait for Karen to make her next move. I wanted to know why she was targeting us. Why our baby seemed to be at the center of this. That night, I suited up quietly, tucked my badge from service in my back pocket like a reminder, and followed her. What I found changed everything, and it led me straight to the gate behind her house. The gate behind Karen's house wasn't just some decorative backyard fence like I'd assumed. It led into a narrow, grown path that curved down behind the row of homes, a stretch of land the HOA never mentioned in their maps or maintenance schedules, hidden from the street. No lights, no signs. I moved quietly, following the path under cover of night, every sense alert. After about 30 yards, I saw it. A shed. Not a normal backyard tool shed. This one looked reinforced. almost like a storage unit. New lock, fresh paint. No windows. As I crept closer, I noticed something that stopped me cold. A faint red glow coming from under the door, like a power light. Some kind of equipment? Maybe cameras? I snapped a few photos from my phone and was about to pull back when I heard footsteps behind the shed. Fast, deliberate. I ducked behind a tree just in time to see Karen herself, holding a keyring and a black case. She was muttering to herself. Couldn't make out every word, but I caught phrases like final report, unfit family. And I swear, infant monitoring. Now my blood was boiling. Was this some kind of surveillance operation? On us? On our newborn? I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but everything pointed to something way more disturbing than an HOA turf war. I took a breath, ready to step out and confront her, but just then, another figure emerged from the shadows. A man, mid-50s, sharp suit, calm demeanor. Definitely not a neighbor. Karen handed him the case like it was routine. They spoke in low voices, but I caught enough to make my stomach turn. "The baby is a match," he said. Karen nodded slowly. We proceed as planned, before he catches on. They didn't know I was watching. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about control or harassment. This was organized, planned, and somehow my daughter, our newborn, was part of it.